Hello, welcome to Talking the Secret Doctrine. My name is Dr. Don Franklin Shepherd, and today we will be closing with the second part of the first volume of H.P. Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine in a section entitled On Quan Shi Yin and Kuan Yin from pages 470 to 473. So let's take a look and see what H.P. Blavatsky has to say on the subject. She writes, like Avalokiteshvara, Quan Shi Yin has passed through several transformations, but it is an error to say of him that he is a modern invention of the northern Buddhists. For under another appellation he has been known from the earliest times. So Avalokiteshvara and Quan Shi Yin have passed through several transformations, but this is not only because of cultural changes, it is also because they are streams of consciousness. And the way they are described all depends on the point of our inner vision that is looking upon them. In the second sentence, H.P. Blavatsky writes, the secret doctrine teaches that he who is the first to appear at renovation will be the last to come before reabsorption, pralaya. So we know that we're dealing with a Mahamanvantara and a Mahapralaya here. We're dealing with the dawn, and therefore, Avalokiteshvara is the third logos, the central point. She continues, thus, the logoi of all nations, from the Vedic Vishvakarma of the mysteries down to the savior of the present civilized nations, are the Word who is in the beginning, or the reawakening of the energizing powers of nature with the one absolute. So the Word here is the third logos. It was there in the beginning, that is, it's there at the dawn of the Mahamanvantara, and it's with the one absolute. It's a part of the great breath. It's perfectly clear. She continues on, born of fire and water, before these became distinct elements. So we know here we're dealing with fire, the first logos that generates that third logos that breaks away, that scintilla, that fiery spark. The water in this case being the receptacle, or the second logos, mula prakriti. It was the maker, finisher, or modeler of all things before the distinct elements. So we're dealing with the pre-cosmic triad, the three logoi. Without him was not anything made that was made, in whom was life, and the life was the light of men. The light of men, in this case, being the solar suns that receive the light of the central point, and who finally may be called, as he has ever been, the Alpha and the Omega of manifested nature. So we now know that H.P. Blavatsky is turning our attention to manifested nature, which means a sevenfold mundane egg. So, Avalokiteshvara is the Alpha and Omega. But how does he do it? He does it because he tinctures manifested nature. And when he tinctures manifested nature, we get the point in the point. Avalokiteshvara is the third logos, the point. The point in the point is Quan Shi Yin, the seventh layer of the mundane egg. Remember, H.P. Blavatsky had referred to the Alpha and Omega of manifested nature, stretching from Mahat in its sevenfold division, down to the earth, down at the very bottom. 1, 2, 3, the first, second, third layer of the mundane egg. So this is the Alpha and the Omega of manifested nature. Avalokiteshvara is the third logos. Tinctures manifested nature. Quan Shi Yin is the seventh layer of the mundane egg. She continues. The great dragon of wisdom is born of fire and water, and into fire and water will all be reabsorbed with him. So here we now have the dragon of wisdom, but we're not dealing with the dragon of wisdom as the third logos. We're dealing with the dragon of wisdom in the mundane egg. And in this case, the dragon of wisdom is the fifth layer of the mundane egg, the fire, the seventh, and water, the sixth. Fire in this case referring to Atma, water in this case referring to Buddhi, or Kuan Yin from a certain perspective. And the great dragon of wisdom is the fifth. We're dealing with the stream of consciousness from the seventh to the sixth to the fifth. In The Secret Doctrine on page 550, H.P. Blavatsky does a marvelous job of diagramming this, in which he shows the caduceus on the staff. There's the serpent with two heads stretching upwards. Then there's the wings, and then there's the single serpent head looking down on all. If we're trying to understand these concepts of Atma, Buddhi, Manas, and we're trying to understand these concepts of the various layers of the mundane egg, here it is. Stretching upwards, we have 1, 2, 3, we have 4 spirals of the serpent, That's the planets and the solar sun. The fifth is the great serpent, the great dragon of wisdom in the mundane egg, and it's two-headed because it's the fifth, it's dual. Above that we have the wings. These are the wings of the monad. This is Buddhi that allows the soul, as the fifth, to fly up into the sixth and into the seventh. And at the very top, we have Atma. We have the single head, which is that tinctured point of consciousness in the great mundane egg. And H.P. Blavatsky continues. As this Bodhisattva is said to assume any form he pleases from the beginning of a manvantara to its end, and he does, though his special birthday, Memorial Day, is celebrated according to the King Kwang Ming King, the Luminous Sutra of Golden Light, in the second month of the 19th day, and that of Maitreya Buddha in the first month on the first day, yet the two are one. This is a very interesting concept, equating Quan Shi Yin with Maitreya Buddha. He will appear as Maitreya Buddha, the last of the avatars, and Buddhas in the seventh race. Well, that's an interesting statement because we're currently in the fifth root race, and we know that Maitreya Buddha will be the Buddha that follows Gautama Buddha, and we know that Maitreya Buddha will be a Buddha in the fifth root race. So why does she equate him with the seventh race here? Well, we'll see that in just a moment. This belief and expectation are universal throughout the East. Only it is not in the Kali Yuga, our present terrifically materialistic age of darkness, the Black Age, that a new savior of humanity can ever appear. So we're currently in the fifth root race, the fourth subrace, moving towards the middle point where there'll be a great cataclysmic disaster. Gautama Buddha is looking over all of this, but Maitreya will come in the future. So how is he equated with the seventh race and yet he's a fifth root race Buddha? As we move through the fifth root race, the fourth subrace, we'll move to the fifth subrace. And then we'll move to the sixth subrace. And there at the middle point of that sixth subrace, Maitreya Buddha will appear. Well, he's in the sixth subrace. How does this correspond to the seventh? It corresponds to the seventh because he's right there at the transition point from the sixth subrace going into the seventh subrace of the fifth root race. And so what we see then is we see Maitreya Buddha is corresponding to both Buddhi, the sixth principle, and Atma, the seventh principle. Or he's corresponding to Kuan Yin as the sixth layer of the mundane egg, and Quan Shi Yin as the seventh layer of the mundane egg. So it's the most natural thing to equate Maitreya Buddha and Quan Shi Yin. What is most interesting is that Maitreya Buddha, as he's bringing in Buddhi and Atma into the fifth root race, will also correspond in a certain way to the seventh root race. H.P. Blavatsky has beautifully and subtly woven in the details of our human evolution into this cosmic passage. We look over at page 471 in the middle of that second paragraph, and H.P. Blavatsky writes, Quan Shi Yin is Avalokiteshvara, and both are forms of the seventh universal principle. So we're dealing with that mundane egg. While in its highest metaphysical character, this deity is a synthetic aggregation of all the planetary spirits, Dhyani Chohans. So we have the seventh layer, and then underneath that seventh layer, we have all of the various Dhyani Chohans coming into life in the mundane egg. She writes, he is the self-manifested, in short, the Son of the Father. These are all beautiful passages, fantastic passages. And so let's go ahead and look down at the very bottom of page 471 in that fourth paragraph to see how H.P. Blavatsky defines and describes Avalokiteshvara. In the middle of that paragraph, this is what she writes. The name Avalokiteshvara means the Lord who looks down from on high. Nor is Quan Shi Yin the spirit of the Buddhas present in the church, but literally interpreted, it means the Lord that is seen. That is because the third logos, the central point, is seen in our inner vision. And in one sense, the divine self, perceived by self, the human, that is, the human can perceive this central point. The Atman, or seventh principle, merged in the universal, perceived by, or the object of perception to, Buddhi, the sixth principle, or divine soul in man. So we see here that these terms are concomitant. The third logos, the seventh principle, the sixth principle, they're concomitant. They're existing together as we're seeing in our inner vision the various layers of the cosmos spelled with a K. She continues. In a still higher sense, Avalokiteshvara is Quan Chi Yin, referred to as the seventh principle, is the logos perceived by the universal buddhi, or soul. So universal buddhi, the sixth principle. The soul is the fifth layer of the mundane egg, as a synthetic aggregate of the dhyani Buddhas, or the fourth layer of the mundane egg. Let's look at that one more time. It's all very clear. In a still higher sense, Avalokiteshvara, Quan Chi Yin, that is the third logos, the central point. Quan Chi Yin, the seventh layer, mundane egg, referred to as the seventh universal principle, is the logos perceived by the universal buddhi. So the seventh layer of the mundane egg is perceived by the sixth layer of the mundane egg, or the soul, in this case referring to the fifth layer of the mundane egg, as a synthetic aggregate of the dhyani Buddhas, the fourth layer of the mundane egg, or the solar suns. And let's go ahead and take a look at what she says down at the bottom on 472. She writes in that last paragraph, Quan Chi Yin then is the son identical with his father, mystically, or the logos, the word. So Quan Yin Shi here, in this case, is the son identical with the father, identical with the logos, the word. So the seventh layer of the mundane egg, the Paramatman, the point, is identical with the father, who in this case is the third logos, or the central point, the point in the point. In the same way that we can say that when we're looking at Kuan Yin, we can describe Kuan Yin as being identical with the second logos, Mula Prakriti, with the third logos, Prakriti, or with the universal buddhi as the sixth layer of the mundane egg. The sixth layer of the mundane egg, in a certain perspective, is identical with Mula Prakriti. She goes on, he is called the dragon of wisdom in stanza 3, as all the logoi of all the ancient religious systems are connected with and symbolized by serpent. So Quan Chi Yin is the seventh layer of the mundane egg. The dragon, this serpent, can be seen as the seventh layer of the mundane egg, but he's a stream of consciousness, which was why he's a serpent. And as he descends from the seventh to the sixth to the fifth, in the fifth he becomes dual. And that's why the single-headed serpent, in H.P. Blavatsky's diagram that was discussed earlier, becomes a double-headed serpent in the fifth layer of the mundane egg. She then goes on to talk about Egypt. She goes on to talk about sacred animals, so forth and so on. Let's look it over on page 473 and see how she closes out this passage. To close, Quan Chi Yin and Kuan Yin are the two aspects, male and female, of the same principle in cosmos, nature, and man, of divine wisdom and intelligence. They are the Christus Sophia of the mystic Gnostics. The Christus Sophia, Christos being the seventh layer of the mundane egg, Sophia being the sixth, and then Akamoth, when Sophia is linked with Akamoth, it's a drop through the fifth into the fourth layer of the mundane egg, the Logos and its Shakti. So the Logos and its Shakti. In this case, the Logos being the central point, tincturing the seventh layer, and then the Shakti being Daivi Prakriti from that seventh layer, working all the way down to the fourth layer of the solar sun. In their longing for the expression of some mysteries never to be wholly comprehended by the profane, the ancients, knowing that nothing could be preserved in human memory without some outward symbol, have chosen thee to us often ridiculous images of the Kuan Yins to remind man of his origin and inner nature. I hope these thoughts give us something to think about when we're contemplating the notion of Kuan Yin, Quan Chi Yin, and Avalokiteshvara, and our own cosmic origins as reflected through these beautiful symbols representing fantastically spiritual deities in the cosmos. Thank you so much. See you next time.